The magic equation. Have you ever built a commander deck that looked amazing on paper, but simply fell flat at the table? Bad feeling, I know, but what if I told you there's a process that you can follow to make sure that your decks are not only functional, but are more importantly fun to play? This is how to solve the magic equation. And to get started, let's go over the coolest thing in the world, math. Alright, don't click off the video just because I said the word math. I mean, you literally clicked on a video with a math problem in the thumbnail. What did you expect? But to best understand the magic equation, we do have to look through a mathematician's lens. The magic equation basically turns your commander deck into a math problem, and you are trying to solve for your fun and functionality with it. Whenever you are picking your commander and building your 99, you're basically constructing a math equation that you will have fun solving. And now, I think that most people build their commander decks with the mindset of trying to solve their commander. In a sense, this makes adding in synergistic cards for your deck that makes your commander run as smooth as possible. I believe that most players build their 99 in the hopes of solving their commander and making them over the deck run as smoothly as possible. And to me, this is fundamentally killing your deck and the fun you have with it. And in theory, this practice works perfectly. While you're goldfishing, you can get your engines, your payoffs out, and smooth right into a win. But
theory will get you only so far.
Let's make your 4th grade math teacher proud here. Can anyone tell me what a variable is? No, okay, well, I didn't really think so. A variable is something that can change in its value, or in math, a unknown to a problem. These would be the letters that you have to solve for and show your work unless you want to lose points. But this is the most important thing to understanding the magic equation, because the magic equation is not about solving your commander, it is about having answers to the variables. No commander game is ever truly the same. You have different pod mates, people play different decks, and cards you have never even seen before are played. These, as I'm sure some of you are picking up on, are the variables that your commander deck should be trying to solve. Let me ask you a few questions. How well can your deck destroy an enchantment? How often can your deck protect your commander from removal? Can you stop a graveyard loop? These are all variables I'm talking about. This is why good deck designers always say, make sure your decks have enough interaction. That's how you solve the variables. And now yes, whenever you're goldfishing your deck and you see a Path to Exile and Chaos Warp in your hand, it kind of feels bad. You wish that there were more synergistic cards that make your commander sing. But in an actual game, whenever someone's swinging their big stompy creature at you, that's when those cards become the answer. That's when you solve the problem. And I always get the pushback whenever I say this, that filling a deck with interaction makes it unfun to play and just kills the synergy. And this is just wrong. For example, I had an Arna Sky Captain deck for a while, and what Arna does is double the number of counters on it and copy the equipment and auras attached to your attacking creatures. And while I could just throw in generic interaction, what I did instead was find synergistic interaction, like the card Sheltered by Ghost. I would play this card and put it onto Arna, and off of it entering, I would exile a non-land permanent until it leaves the battlefield. To Arna, this is basically a Swords to Plowshare Jr., exiling something hopefully for the whole game, but on top of that also buffing up Arna, giving her lifelink in Ward 2. But the actual synergy doesn't stop there, because like I said before, Arna whenever she swings is going to make a copy of Sheltered by Ghost, once again giving Arna more protection with another Ward 2, and also allowing me to exile another non-land permanent, giving me a constant source of removal that I need to answer my opponent's threats. So in one card, not only am I adding to my game plan, but I'm also solving for multiple variables at once. And this isn't even just Arna. Maybe you're in a +1/+1 counter deck in green, you can find the card Strength of Will. Not only is this going to give one of your creatures indestructible, but whenever it is dealt damage, it's going to get that many +1/+1 counters. Not only protecting one of your key creatures, but also adding to your synergy, giving it even more +1/+1 counters. And I could go on all day naming random cards that add to game plans while also solving for variables, but let me hit the nail on the head and say, you should want to interact with your opponents, and you should want them to interact with you. If you don't, maybe just stick to goldfishing your decks. Commander is a social game, it is not solitaire. Whenever you have the mindset of building a deck with the magic equation in mind, you are preparing for a social game with things like politics and people also presenting their own wins and giving you a way to try and solve those problems. Commander games are not fun where it's just you and your friends seeing who can speed to a win first with no one touching anyone else's board. Winning a game of Commander feels infinitely better whenever you had to fight through removal, 2 other players presenting their win cons, and you still managed to pull out the dub over just playing something on turn 7, everyone scooping saying that you got it. But how does this way of thinking make Commander games more fun? let me present to you an unpopular opinion of why I actually like tutors in Commander. Most players use tutors for the sole purpose of presenting win cons. Like I said before, people who build their decks to fully optimize their commander most likely use tutors to find a combo piece or get a synergistic card, but in short, they are always grabbing one of the same few cards with their tutors. But under the mindset of the Magic equation, tutors are much more valuable than this and actually add to the game. How I like to see tutors are an instant solution to a variable in one of my games. In my Cloud deck, I used to always tutor for Colossus Hammer, where I would get it out before Cloud, make Cloud super big off of him entering, and swing to smash some faces in. But that got stale, quickly. Now, I still use tutors in that deck, but I use it to find pieces of removal to take out a permanent, or maybe I need to give Cloud protection from a color or trample to get through someone's board. The mindset of my tutor is just a second copy of this card should really never be in your bracket 3 or below decks, because that just takes away from the interaction of the game. This way of tutoring is not always just a brain-dead search for your combo piece or favorite card, but rather an action you are doing to solve a problem, which in my experience makes it so much more rewarding than the old way I used to tutor for cards. And with this way of thinking about tutors, I'm not saying you can never tutor for those synergistic cards or combo pieces. I still tutor for Colossus Hammer whenever I get the chance, because it's just a good card to get with Cloud out early, but I never just blindly search for it now. Now I actively think, what are my opponent's boards going to look like in 2 turns whenever I get Cloud out? Am I going to need protection from a color? Am I going to need trample? These are all questions I have to ask myself and try to solve, because whenever I do, it just feels more rewarding. And so now let's loop back to my math example. Your deck's game plan is the base equation. Your payoffs, your engines, all of these are the base of what your deck wants to do. Whenever you're goldfishing, these are the cards you love to see because they just get your deck running. Next, we add in the variables. We have an X for if someone tries to remove our commander, we have a Y for if someone tries to swing at us with a big creature, and Z for how much graveyard hate we have on our deck, and so on. The fun part is making the answers to these variables a part of our game plan. Think of it like this. Your interaction is not a separate toolbox that you are digging through whenever something goes wrong. It should be baked into how your deck functions. Like I said before, a Voltron deck can turn an aura into removal and protection, while also adding to the game plan of buffing up our commander. The same way a sacrifice deck can turn removal into a triggered mechanic, forcing everyone to sacrifice and also giving us value. So stop building decks that solve your commander and just have interaction for the sake of interaction. Start building decks that solve for the unknowns at the table, that also while solving add to our game plan. Because when you do, every game becomes dynamic, every tutor feels meaningful, and every win feels earned. So, next time you sit down to brew a deck, just ask yourself one thing: what variables am I trying to solve?